Good morning. Today I would like to go over the Biology Benchmark 1 review. So let's jump right on into this. You have to know about the organelles that we went over for our cell unit. So chloroplast is going to be G, where photosynthesis happens. It converts light into chemical energy. Vacuole is A is used for storage. It is large in plants. Is also visible in plants. They're small and numerous in animal cells. Mitochondria, E, site of cell respiration, and that's going to be aerobic respiration. This breaks down food to release energy, and that energy is going to be in the form of ATP. The nucleus is I, holds genetic information. We're referring to DNA there. The ribosome is C, site of protein synthesis. The cell wall is D, rigid. It is a protective barrier made of cellulose, which of course is that carbohydrate. Cell membrane is H, responsible for maintaining homeostasis by controlling what goes in and out of the cell. Prokaryote is B. All prokaryotes are unicellular. They have no nucleus. Remember, no. They are bacteria. Eukaryote is F. They have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Remember, EU, true nucleus, true membrane-bound organelles. Down here below, you have a word bank. What is homeostasis? What term describes that? Stable state. Means biological balance. What are the chemical messengers used for cell-to-cell communication? There are going to be two. They are a neurotransmitter and hormones. In order to respond to a hormone or neurotransmitter, a cell must have a receptor that matches the hormone or neurotransmitter. How do hormones travel through the body? In the blood, in the bloodstream. This type of hormone helps your body get ready for action. Adrenaline. List the levels of organization from smallest to largest. So cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs. Organs make up an entire organ system. Most things in your body does, such as sweat or dilate your blood vessels, are done in order to maintain homeostasis, or that stable state, like having a constant body temperature of 98.6. You shiver and sweat to keep that body temperature constant. Here are parts of the cell. So the cell membrane is going to be B. The cytoplasm is E. The nucleus is F. The vacuole is A. The mitochondria is D. The ribosomes, which are pointing to a dot, are here, C. If you want to make that dot a little bit bigger, you can. The plant cell. The cell membrane is F. That's the inner structure here. The cytoplasm is B. The nucleus is C. The large vacuole is G. The mitochondria, yes, plants have mitochondria, is H here. Here's another one, and another one. Ribosomes are E, these dots. The cell wall is D. The cell wall is outside of the cell membrane. The chloroplasts are A. There's one here and one here. Remember, that's where photosynthesis takes place. Chloroplast is A. Here is a bacterial cell. So before we go over the parts of the bacterial cell, it says, what cell parts do both bacteria and animal cells have in common? Remember, a bacterial cell is a prokaryotic cell. Animal is a eukaryotic cell. So ribosomes, cytoplasm, cell membrane, and DNA. Now, the DNA is not necessarily enclosed within a nucleus in a prokaryotic cell, but they do have DNA. So when we're looking at the parts of a bacterial cell, the cell membrane is D. That's pointing to this structure right in here. Cross out cell wall and put flagellum. This long whip-like structure that's going to be used for movement is a flagellum, and some bacteria have those, some don't. The cytoplasm is A. The circular DNA, remember that the DNA in a prokaryotic cell is not inside the nucleus, it's in just one big loop, that is B. And ribosomes, and I made the dot a little bit bigger, is E. Remember, ribosomes are found in all cells. Down here at the bottom, a little bit about cell transport, the movement of very large particles out of the cell, and it requires ATP, is exocytosis. The movement of particles from a high concentration to a low concentration with the help of the protein channels. So that's diffusion with a little bit of help, and we call that facilitated diffusion. Number 3, selectively permeable, responsible for controlling what goes in and out of the cell. That's going to be the plasma membrane or cell membrane. Number 4, a type of passive transport in which water moves from an area of high to an area of low concentration. It is passive, so it doesn't require any energy. Osmosis. The type of transport that does not require energy, so no energy is required, passive transport. A type of passive transport in which particles, just in general, maybe oxygen, carbon dioxide, move from an area of high to low concentration, is diffusion. 7, the movement of very large particles into the cell. So we're going into the cell. It does require energy. Endocytosis. Type of transport that does require energy. Active transport. Number 9, this channel in the plasma membrane that helps particles pass through are made of protein. And we'll take a look at a picture in just a little bit. Number 10, the part of the plasma membrane that works like a screen to control what goes in and out of the cell, those are the phospholipids. Here we have a few osmosis problems. If you know the salt, you find the water, because it has to add up to 100. So if it's 2.5% salt, it's 97.5% water. It's 98% water inside the cell. 98 is greater than 97.5, so water will leave. This cell will shrink. Here you can see that there are equal concentrations of water in and out of the cell, so there'll be no net gain of water in or out. Here there's 98.5% water outside the cell, 98% inside the cell. Water will move in. So it says if osmosis, so we're talking about water moving, occurs, which of the solutions above will cause the cell to expand, get larger? That's going to be this third picture down here. If osmosis, again, we're referring to osmosis, water moving, which of the solutions above will cause the cell to shrink or shrivel? So water is going to leave. It's going to cause this cell, which is the first picture, to get smaller. What part of the cell is this structure? This is the cell membrane, 2 layers of phospholipids with proteins embedded. So the proteins are B, and the phospholipid bilayer are A. Here we've got some organic molecules, some pictures of them. The triglyceride, which is just an example of a fat, okay, so that's a lipid, that is C. Here is your glycerol, and you've got 3 fatty acids, so it kind of looks like the letter E. The monosaccharide, a carbohydrate, there's your ring. You want to highlight that, you can, which is picture D. The amino acid is picture A. And then, of course, the nucleotide is going to be picture B. And, of course, that makes up nucleic acids. So here we've got some fill in the blank. We do have a word bank up here. Regulate rate of chemical reactions, build muscles and other tissues, and works to cell transport. That's going to be the function of proteins. Long-term energy storage, insulation, main component of the cell membrane, lipids. Carries instructions for building proteins, nucleic acids. Short-term energy storage for animals, that's glycogen. A protein that can speed up chemical reactions, enzyme. Sugar produced during photosynthesis is glucose. In general, the main source of energy for organisms are carbohydrates. Short-term energy storage for plants is starch. Protein that regulates blood sugar helps our body to absorb glucose is insulin. Protein that carries oxygen in the blood, hemoglobin. Carbohydrate in the cell wall of plants, cellulose. Here's a fill in the blank. Enzymes lower the amount of energy required to undergo a chemical reaction. The monomer of enzymes, which are proteins, are amino acids. What two things affect enzyme shape? Temperature, and specifically high temperatures, and pH. What word means the best? Optimum. This is another word for changing the shape of an enzyme. So changing the shape of an enzyme means to denature. Which substrate will match the enzyme below? A will. Again, enzymes are specific. A little bit on photosynthesis and respiration. When you exercise very hard, your muscle begins to cramp. This is due to the buildup of lactic acid. Number two, where respiration happens in cells, we're talking about aerobic respiration. That's going to be the mitochondria. Where photosynthesis happens in cells, chloroplast. This type of respiration requires oxygen and produces the most ATP at 36 ATPs. That's going to be aerobic respiration. Number five, also known as energy. This is the molecule that cells use to power their activities. ATP is usable cell energy. During photosynthesis, light energy is converted into chemical energy, food for plants. Number seven, don't worry about that, that's omitted. Number eight, yeast cause bread to rise because they release this gas, carbon dioxide. This type of respiration does not require oxygen and does not produce very much ATP, only 2. That is going to be anaerobic respiration or fermentation. 10, having big leaves helps a plant to perform photosynthesis more efficiently. If you reduce the amount of light a plant gets, it will not perform photosynthesis as well. So the decreased amount of light, you decrease photosynthesis. And lastly, photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast. There are 3 things that are needed. These are the reactants: carbon dioxide, water, and light. What gets produced? Glucose and oxygen. In aerobic respiration, that occurs in the mitochondria. The ingredients, what goes in, are glucose and oxygen, is aerobic oxygen. What gets produced? Carbon dioxide, water, and a whole bunch of ATPs, 36 ATPs. Again, if you need to start and stop the video to write down things as needed, please feel free to do so.